My wife never knew the company she was applying to work for belonged to me. She never knew the man sitting at the head of the boardroom table was her husband. The same husband she stripped of dignity. The same man she turned into a timid house husband, someone she believed she could throw away. When she walked into that interview room and saw me, she froze. Her confidence disappeared. Her smile collapsed. And in that moment, the power finally shifted. She probably thought I was homeless by now. Cold, broken, begging for food on the streets of Brooklyn. But for the first time in years, the shame wasn't mine. It was hers. She isolated me. When I tried to talk to friends, she made it difficult. They don't like me, she said. They're bad influences. They don't respect our marriage. Eventually, people stopped calling. My days became simple. I woke up early to make her breakfast, cleaned the house, planned meals around what she liked. I watched her moods carefully. If she was quiet, I stayed invisible. If she was angry, I apologized. If she was happy, I felt relief. That was my life. She made me small. And she never imagined I would survive it. Let me tell you how my story really started. My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 38 years old. For most of my life, I believed that working hard and loving someone was enough. I believed that if I supported my wife and trusted her, everything would work out. I was wrong. This is the story of how I lost myself, how I was broken down piece by piece, and how I rebuilt my life from nothing. It's starting the night I was locked out of my own home in the rain. It was raining hard that night. My clothes were wet within minutes. I was standing barefoot outside our Brooklyn townhouse, shaking, my hands stiff. The door behind me was locked, and I knew she did it on purpose. This wasn't the start of our marriage. It wasn't even the start of her cruelty. This was the moment she decided I no longer mattered. Across the river, Manhattan was glowing. Tall buildings, bright lights, people inside staying warm, living their lives. Life was still going on over there. Right where I stood, I was cold, wet, and alone. I knocked on the door multiple times. Nothing happened. I leaned close to the door, hoping to hear footsteps, hoping she would open it and say this was all a mistake. Instead, I heard the TV, laughter from a show. She was inside, comfortable, watching television, while I stood outside in the rain. I knocked again. "Please," I said, "just open the door." No answer. I checked my phone. Dead. The screen wouldn't turn on. I hadn't charged it because I didn't go anywhere anymore. She used to say that all the time. Where would you even go? Rain ran down my face and into my eyes. My hands were numb. I crossed my arms over my chest, trying to stay warm. That's when it hit me. I had nowhere to go. No money. No car, no job. I didn't even have a jacket. I looked up and down the street. Lights were on in other houses. I could see shadows moving behind curtains. People could see me. A grown man, barefoot, soaked, knocking on his own door. One woman looked out her window, saw me, and closed the curtain. Another man stepped outside, glanced at me, then turned away and pretended to talk on his phone. No one asked if I was okay. No one helped. I wasn't invisible. I was embarrassing. I slid down the wall and sat on the cold steps. Water soaked through my pants. My body shook so hard I could barely breathe. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't an accident. This was a lesson. She was showing me that I had no power. I thought about knocking again, about begging, about saying sorry for something, maybe for nothing at all. I had been doing that a lot lately, apologizing just to keep peace. But I stopped myself. I didn't want her to open the door and look at me like that, like I was nothing. I stood up and started walking. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there anymore. Cars drove past and splashed water on me. None of them slowed down. I crossed one street, then another. Brooklyn felt endless when you had nowhere to belong. I walked until my chest felt tight and my vision blurred. My clothes stuck to my body. I must have looked crazy. A grown man walking in the rain with no shoes and no direction. That's when I heard a car slow down behind me. The engine stopped. A door opened. Then a voice called out, "Hey!" A pause. Then louder. "Is that you?" I turned around. A black SUV was parked at the curb. Clean, expensive, out of place in the rain. A man stood next to it, staring at me like he couldn't believe his eyes. He stepped closer and said my name. My stomach dropped. For a second, I thought I was imagining things. Cold and shock can do that. Then I recognized him. My cousin. The one I hadn't seen since we were teenagers. Since before my parents died. Since life pulled us apart. He looked older, stronger, well-dressed, but his eyes were the same. "What happened to you?" he asked. I tried to answer. I couldn't. He looked at my bare feet, my wet clothes, my shaking hands. "Oh my God," he said quietly. "I thought you were dead." Something broke inside me then, because standing there in the rain, with someone from my past seeing me like this, I finally understood how far I had fallen. Before the rain, before the locked door, before I forgot what it felt like to be my own person. I met my wife at work in Manhattan. We worked at the same consulting firm, but we were not on the same level. She was senior, well-known, respected. When she spoke, people listened. When she walked into a room, people noticed. She was confident and sure of herself all the time. I was younger, ambitious, eager to prove myself. I wasn't scared of her success. I liked it. I liked that she challenged me. When she corrected me in meetings, I learned. When she pushed me, I pushed back. At least, that's what I thought. We started working late together. First, it was about projects. Then we went for drinks. Then we talked for hours. She told me she liked my drive. I told her I liked her confidence. She said she liked that I wasn't threatened by her success. I thought that was love. When we started dating, things felt equal. We split bills. We debated ideas. We talked about the future like we were building it together. But even then, there were warning signs. She made more money than me, much more. She mentioned it often, not in a cruel way, just casually. "I'm already where you're trying to get," she'd say. "Once you catch up, we'll be unstoppable." It sounded supportive. I didn't realize she was placing herself above me. When we got married, she said everything would change. "Now we're a team," she said. "No competition, just us." At first, it felt true. Then work became a problem. She came home tired, angry, short with me. She talked about stress, pressure, responsibility. "I carry so much," she'd say. "I'm holding our future together." I tried to help. I cooked more. I cleaned more. I tried to make her life easier. That's when she first said it. "Your job doesn't really make sense anymore." I laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. "One income is smarter," she said. "I make enough for both of us." "You don't need that stress." I told her I liked my job, that I was close to a promotion. She didn't agree. "You're always tired," she said. "And for what? To prove something?" I didn't know she meant prove something to her. She kept bringing it up, again and again. She came with numbers, plans, reasons. "If you take a break," she said, "you'll find yourself. You can always go back." She made it sound like freedom. She made it sound like love. But every conversation ended the same way. "Don't you trust me? Why are you holding on to a job that barely pays? Why is your pride more important than our future?" That word, pride, broke me. I started doubting myself. I thought maybe I was being selfish. Maybe sacrifice was part of marriage. The night I quit, she hugged me. "I've got you," she said. "You won't regret this." I felt relief and fear. Relief that the pressure might stop. Fear that I had just given up something important. At first, things were okay. I stayed home. She worked. It was supposed to be temporary. Then she took control of the money. "It's easier this way," she said, "since I'm earning." My name wasn't on anything. I had no access. She gave me money when she felt like it. I told myself it was practical. Then the comments started. "What did you do today? You're home all day. Why is this not done? You forgot to clean?" I tried to joke, tried to stay calm. She didn't. When my friends called, she got annoyed. When they invited us out, she said no for both of us. "They don't respect me," she said. "They don't respect us." Slowly, people stopped calling. She started introducing me differently. "This is my husband," she'd say. "He's between jobs." Sometimes she smiled when she said it. Sometimes she sounded embarrassed. Sometimes like she was explaining a problem. Every time I felt smaller. I became careful, quiet, always trying not to upset her. If she was in a good mood, things were peaceful. If she wasn't, I stayed out of the way. I cleaned, I cooked, I waited. I said sorry when she snapped, I said sorry when she didn't. I said sorry just in case. I stopped calling my friends. I stopped visiting family. I stopped arguing. Arguing cost too much. Over time, I stopped asking for money. I stopped asking for respect. I stopped asking for anything. I told myself this was normal, that marriage meant compromise, that things would change once I figured out my next step. But weeks turned into months, months turned into years. The man who once walked confidently into Manhattan offices now judged his value by whether dinner was ready on time. I didn't choose to become a house husband. It happened slowly. Love turned into control. Promises turned into rules. And the future somehow stopped needing me. I didn't realize how far I had fallen, not until the night she locked me out in the rain. The cruelty didn't start suddenly. It started slowly. The first time she gave me money, she smiled like she was helping me. She put a few bills on the kitchen counter and said, "This should be enough for the week." I looked at the money. It wasn't much, just enough for food, maybe a coffee if I was careful. "I don't need an allowance," I said, trying to sound normal. She didn't look up from her phone. "It's not an allowance," she said. "It's a budget." That word mattered to her. Budget. From that day on, I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her expense. If I needed new shoes, I had to explain why. If I wanted to visit someone, I had to explain how much it would cost. If I bought something she didn't like, she reminded me whose money it was. "You don't earn right now," she'd say. "So be smart." Smart meant doing what she wanted. Then she started making comments about me. At first, she joked. One day, she watched me folding laundry and laughed. "You're starting to look very domestic." Her friends laughed. I laughed too. Late, weak. At a dinner party, someone asked what I did for work. Before I could answer, she spoke. "He's taking time off," she said, "trying to figure himself out." Then she added, smiling, "I guess not every man can handle pressure." The table went quiet for a moment. I felt my face burn. I wanted to speak, but I didn't. On the way home, I told her it hurt me. She sighed. "You're too sensitive," she said. "It was a joke. Everyone knows I earn the money. What's the problem?" The problem was she liked doing it. I could see it in her face. In the small smile she tried to hide. That's when she took more control. She told me to delete LinkedIn. "You're not even job hunting," she said. "Why stress yourself?" She said she would handle emails because it was easier. I didn't know she meant my emails too. Old coworkers stopped replying to me. At first, I thought they were busy. Then I thought they were avoiding me. Then I thought something was wrong with me. I didn't know she had access to my accounts. She read messages, deleted invitations, answered people for me. Later, I found out she told them I wasn't well, that I was dealing with mental health issues, that they shouldn't contact me. She said she was protecting me. "You're fragile right now," she said. "I don't want people judging you." Fragile. That word stayed with me. Whenever I disagreed with her, she looked at me and said, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" She used concern to shut me down. When I tried to talk to friends again, she made it difficult. "They don't like me," she said. "They're bad influences. They don't respect our marriage." Eventually, people stopped calling. I stopped noticing. My days became simple. I woke up early, made breakfast, cleaned the house, planned meals around what she liked. I watched her moods carefully. If she was quiet, I stayed invisible. If she was angry, I apologized. If she was happy, I felt relief. That was my life. The comments got worse. "You should work out," she said one morning. "You're getting soft." I laughed. Then she said, "You used to be ambitious. What happened to you?" I wanted to say you did, but I didn't, because whenever I pushed back, she reminded me of the truth. "Where would you go? With what money? You should be grateful." She didn't shout. She didn't need to. Her calm voice hurt more than yelling ever could. The night she locked me out, there was no fight. That's what people don't understand. No screaming, no argument, no slammed doors. It was quiet. She came home late, put her bag down, walked past me. I asked how her day was. She didn't answer. I followed her, not angry, nervous. "Did I do something wrong?" I asked. She stopped and turned around. She looked tired, annoyed. "I need space," she said. Then she stepped outside to take a phone call. She didn't take her keys. I heard the lock click. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I knocked softly. Nothing. I knocked harder. Still nothing. The door was locked. I waited, told myself she would open it. She didn't. I knocked again. "Please," I said, "just let me in." I heard her inside. She stood near the door but didn't open it. "You need to learn," she said calmly, "that you don't always have access to me." I froze. "You've gotten too comfortable," she added. Then she walked away. She didn't lock me out because she was angry. She locked me out to train me, to show me what happens when I forget my place. If you're drawn to stories of betrayal, hidden truths, and justice that arrives when no one expects it, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. New stories drop regularly, each one darker, sharper, and more unforgettable than the last. Now, back to the story. When the rain started, I stayed there for a long time, hoping she'd change her mind. She didn't, so I left. I walked through Brooklyn with no shoes and no direction. Cars passed, people passed, no one stopped, no one saw me. I didn't feel like a man anymore. I felt like I didn't exist. Then a car pulled over, a black SUV, and my cousin stepped out. Someone from a life I thought was gone forever. Standing there, wet and shaking, looking at someone who remembered who I used to be, I finally understood the truth. The woman who promised me a better life had turned me into someone she could throw away. And for the first time in years, the shame wasn't mine. It was hers. My cousin didn't ask me what happened that night. That was the first thing that felt strange. He didn't sit me down under bright lights. He didn't demand explanations. He didn't look at me with pity or curiosity. He handed me a towel, then dry clothes, then said, "You can shower. Food's ready when you're done." That was it. No interrogation, no judgment, just space. I stayed in the shower longer than I needed to. The hot water burned at first, then settled into my bones like something I'd forgotten I deserved. I watched the rainwater and shame wash down the drain together. I didn't cry. I didn't have the energy for that anymore. When I came out, he had set up the guest room like I was expected. Fresh sheets, a charger on the nightstand, a glass of water. "You're safe here," he said simply. "Get some sleep." That night, I slept for 12 straight hours. No dreams, no anxiety, just silence. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight, not the harsh glare of obligation, just light. He was already awake, dressed, calm, drinking coffee at the kitchen island like a man who knew exactly where he was going. That's when I started to understand something. My cousin wasn't just doing well. He was wealthy, not flashy wealth, no gold watches or loud bragging, but the kind of quiet success that shows up in clean lines, organized mornings, and zero urgency. I didn't ask how he got there. He didn't volunteer the story. Instead, he said, "Breakfast is at 6. We start at 6:30. "We?" I asked. He looked at me, studying my posture, my hesitation, my uncertainty. He looked at me and said, "If you're staying here, you're not doing nothing." That was the deal. Not charity, not rescue, structure. The first week was brutal. We woke up before sunrise. No excuses, no snooze buttons, no just 5 more minutes. "Discipline isn't punishment," he said once when I struggled to get out of bed. "It's freedom you haven't learned yet." I didn't know what that meant then. I learned fast. We started with basics. Not business plans, not big dreams, basics. Time management, personal accountability, showing up when you say you will, finishing what you start. He had built his business from nothing. I learned that slowly in pieces. No inheritance, no shortcuts, just years of consistency and refusing to lie to himself. One morning, while we were reviewing spreadsheets, he said something that hit me harder than anything my wife had ever said. "You weren't weak," he said. "You were trained to doubt yourself." I froze. He didn't look at me when he said it, just scrolled, typed, kept moving. "That kind of control doesn't start with fists," he continued. "It starts with convincing you that you're lucky to be tolerated." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because for the first time someone had named it without blaming me. He didn't call her a monster. He didn't paint me as a victim. He treated it like an injury, and injuries heal with the right care. The training intensified. He taught me how to think again, how to evaluate risk without fear, how to negotiate without apologizing, how to speak without shrinking. Every mistake was corrected, calmly. Every success acknowledged, briefly. "No ego," he'd say, "just progress." I wanted to quit more than once. My confidence was fragile. My instincts were rusted. Years of being second-guessed had trained me to hesitate. He didn't let me. "If you walk away now," he said one night, "you'll spend the rest of your life explaining why you didn't try." That sentence followed me everywhere. I stayed. Months passed. I got stronger, not just physically but internally. My voice changed. My posture changed. My thoughts stopped looping around permission. I stopped asking if I was allowed. I started deciding. I didn't contact my wife, not once. Not out of revenge, out of clarity. I knew if I reached out too soon, I'd fall back into the gravity of her version of me. So I stayed silent. Let her wonder. Let her fill in the blanks. I disappeared. No social media, no mutual contacts, no explanations, just work. A year in, my cousin stepped back. "You're ready," he said. "For what?" I asked. "To build something that's yours." He helped me set up the framework, legally, cleanly, independently. He made sure my name stood alone on every document. "This matters," he said. "One day, someone will try to rewrite your story. Paper doesn't forget." I built quietly. No announcements, no celebrations, just results. Year 2 was harder than year 1, because that's when fear tried to return. What if I fail? What if she was right? What if this is all temporary? I worked through it anyway. Failure wasn't fatal anymore. It was information. By year 3, I didn't recognize the man in old photos. The slouched shoulders, the apologetic smile, the eyes that asked for permission to exist. That man was gone. In his place stood someone steady, someone capable, someone no longer defined by what was taken from him. I built my company the same way I rebuilt myself. Quietly, deliberately, without shortcuts. I didn't stop being cautious. I stopped being afraid. One evening, as we sat on the balcony overlooking the city, my cousin raised his glass. "You know," he said, "the moment you stopped being a victim wasn't when you left her." I waited. It was when you stopped needing her to understand. That was the turning point. Not revenge, not success, independence. 3 years after the night in the rain, I stood on my own feet, solid, grounded, unashamed. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was simply done. Done being controlled, done being small, done being grateful for survival. I had rebuilt my skills, my confidence, my identity. I had become a man again. And I had no idea that soon the past would come knocking. The boardroom overlooked Manhattan, all glass and steel and quiet confidence. That morning felt ordinary. That's the strange part. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't anticipating anything. I was reviewing schedules, thinking about growth projections, planning the next quarter. The kind of thoughts that come naturally when you finally belong in the room you're sitting in. We were hiring, mid-level management, strategic operations, someone experienced, sharp, adaptable. I flipped through resumes with the detached focus of someone who'd read hundreds before. Education, experience, references. Then my hands stopped. Not slowly, not thoughtfully. It stopped like my body recognized danger before my mind caught up. Her name, typed neatly at the top of the page. My wife. For a second, I thought it was coincidence, a shared name, a mistake. Then I saw the employment history. The dates lined up perfectly. The firm she'd bragged about, the role she'd lorded over me, the career she'd used as proof of her superiority. My chest tightened. I didn't feel anger. I felt something colder. Recognition. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the ceiling for a moment, and exhaled slowly. The room hummed with low conversation as other interviewers shuffled papers, unaware that my past had just walked back into my present. I didn't say anything. I didn't pull the resume. I let the process continue. Minutes later, the door opened, and she walked in. Confident posture, tailored suit, hair perfectly styled. The same practiced expression she used in every room she ever entered, controlled, superior, prepared. Her eyes scanned the table. They passed over me. Didn't land, didn't recognize. That hurt more than I expected. Not because I wanted her recognition, but because it proved how completely she had erased me. She took her seat, crossed her legs, smiled politely. "Good morning," she said. Her voice hadn't changed, still smooth. Still authoritative, still used to being heard. Introductions went around the table. Titles, roles, nods of acknowledgement. Then it was my turn. I said my name, just my name. She turned toward me, and everything stopped. It wasn't dramatic at first, just a flicker, confusion. Her eyes narrowed slightly like she was trying to place a memory that didn't make sense. Then recognition hit her like a delayed impact. Her smile froze, her pupils widened, her breath caught, just barely, but I saw it. The confident woman who walked in cracked for half a second. Her hands trembled. She tried to hide it by adjusting her folder, but the movement was clumsy, unpracticed. She looked at me again, really looked. The posture, the suit, the calm. This wasn't the man she locked out in the rain. This wasn't the one who apologized for existing. This was someone else, and she knew it. The interview continued. She answered questions flawlessly at first, muscle memory kicking in. She spoke about leadership, vision, adaptability. But her voice wavered, just slightly. Every time she glanced at me, she tried to regain control. She straightened her shoulders, leaned forward. Dominance. That was her first instinct. "Well," she said at one point, smiling thinly, "I've always thrived in high-pressure environments." Her eyes flicked to me, as if daring me to contradict her. I didn't react. That unsettled her more than anger ever could. She shifted tactics. Her tone softened. She laughed lightly at one of my comments, a little too eagerly. Flattery. "I really admire how this company has grown," she said. "The leadership must be exceptional." She looked directly at me now, hoping, fishing. I nodded politely, nothing more. The rest of the panel asked questions. She answered. She performed. But the balance had shifted. She could feel it. When the interview ended, she lingered. Everyone else left. She stayed seated. "Can I have a moment?" she asked, her voice careful now. The room emptied. Silence settled between us. She stood slowly. "I didn't know this was your company," she said. There it was. Not "I'm sorry," not "I was wrong." Just surprise. "I didn't know you were alive," she added, trying to laugh it off. I met her eyes. "I was," I said calmly. "You just didn't notice." Her smile faltered. She swallowed. "I've been trying to find you," she said quickly. "You disappeared." I didn't answer. She stepped closer. "I made mistakes," she said. "We both did, but we were good together. We were a team." I almost laughed. Almost. "We were never a team. I require obedience." Her face flushed. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I was under a lot of pressure," she said. "You know how demanding my career was." I nodded. "Yes," I said. "I remember." She reached out slightly, stopped herself. "I could help you," she said, desperation creeping in. "We could rebuild, together. Together." That word again. The one she only used when she wanted something. I stood. The height difference startled her. Not physically, energetically. "I won't be moving forward with your application," I said evenly. Her eyes widened. "Because of personal history?" she asked, voice sharp now. "No," I replied. "Because trust matters here." That was the moment she broke. Her composure slipped. Her voice dropped. "You can't do this to me," she whispered. I tilted my head slightly. "You did this to yourself." She left the room without another word. I thought that would be the end. I was wrong. The messages started the next day. Old friends I hadn't heard from in years. "Hey man, she's been really struggling. She just wants closure. You owe her a conversation." Mutual acquaintances reached out. People she once banned from visiting me. People she called toxic, irrelevant, unworthy. Now they were useful. She sent emails, long ones, then short ones, then angry ones, then apologetic ones. She oscillated between nostalgia and accusation, between regret and entitlement. She wanted reconciliation, but not love. She wanted access to my life, my success, my stability. She wanted control again, but this time the power didn't bend. I didn't respond. Not because I was afraid, because I was finished. One evening, she showed up at the office. Security called me. "She says she knows you." I smiled. "I know," I said. "Tell her to leave." She waited outside for hours. I didn't go down. The final message came that night. "You think you're better than me now." I typed back one sentence. "No, I just don't belong to you anymore." That was it. The power wasn't taken, it was returned. And she knew it. She always had. She just never expected to lose it. I didn't block her out of anger. I didn't silence her to punish her. I simply stopped responding. That was the cleanest refusal I could give. For weeks after the interview, messages came from every direction. Emails dressed up as concern, texts framed as nostalgia, calls that rang once and stopped, as if testing whether I still belonged to her reach. I never raised my voice, never defended myself, never explained. I had learned something important during those 3 years rebuilding my life. You don't owe clarity to people who only want control. My lawyer handled the rest. A Manhattan firm, quiet, surgical, no drama. He listened carefully as I laid everything out, the resignation, the financial control, the isolation, the locked door in the rain. He didn't interrupt, didn't dramatize, just nodded and took notes. When I finished, he said one sentence. She thought she was building leverage. She was actually building evidence. The divorce moved faster than I expected. No shared accounts, no joint assets, no entanglements she could twist. Everything I had built came after I disappeared. Legally, cleanly, undeniably mine. She contested at first, claimed emotional damages, claimed sacrifice, claimed entitlement. But entitlement doesn't survive paperwork. The final judgment came on a Tuesday afternoon. Gray sky, ordinary hour, no ceremony. She got nothing, no settlement, no access, no claim to the life she had tried to step back into. When my lawyer called to confirm it was done, I thanked him, hung up, and sat quietly for a long time. I didn't feel victorious, I felt finished. That night I went home, not to an empty apartment, but to a place that finally felt like mine. Someone was already there. She was sitting on the couch, reading. legs tucked under her, hair pulled back loosely the way she did when she felt safe. She looked up when I walked in and smiled. Not the kind of smile that measures or evaluates, but the kind that simply welcomes. "You're home early," she said. I nodded. "It's done." She didn't ask what done meant. She stood, crossed the room, and wrapped her arms around me. Not tightly, not possessively. Just enough to say I'm here. That was the difference. I met her long after the rain, long after the silence, long after I had stopped believing I deserved gentleness. She never asked me to be smaller, never joked at my expense, never tested my obedience, never mistook control for care. When I spoke, she listened. When I hesitated, she waited. When I succeeded, she celebrated. Not because it benefited her, but because it mattered to me. With her, love didn't feel like negotiation. It felt like space. Sometimes late at night, I think about the man I was, standing barefoot on wet concrete, knocking on a locked door, believing that love meant enduring whatever someone else decided I deserved. I don't hate that man. I respect him, because he survived long enough to leave. Love that requires submission is not love. It's captivity dressed up as devotion. Dependence is not partnership. It's leverage waiting to be used. And dignity, real dignity, once reclaimed, is never negotiable again. I didn't win by humiliating her. I won by becoming unreachable. By choosing a life where no one needs me small to feel powerful. Some endings don't need fireworks. Some victories don't need witnesses. Sometimes freedom arrives quietly, in a steady home, a clear name, and the simple relief of knowing no one can lock you out of your own life ever again.